Atari video games debuted in the 1970s. So did the same computer system the Kansas Department of Labor is still using today.
We need help now.
But Allison Needleman is done playing games. She's tried to call the Labor Department for months.
I'm just trying to be able to talk to somebody.
Until KMBC Non-Investigates emailed the Kansas Department of Labor, this Johnson County hairstylist couldn't get her unemployment claim paid. More on that in a minute.
Representatives are engaged with a claimant at this time, and the whole queue is full.
With an average of 200,000 calls a day, the Labor Department has just 450 call takers. Call takers are still trying to pay claims with computers from the 1970s.
Governor, I have a quick question on unemployment.
Last month, KMBC Non-Investigates pressed Governor Laura Kelly about the pace of payments.
Do you want to see the Department of Labor move faster to get that stimulus funding out?
The Department of Labor is moving as fast as our technology will allow us to move.
The department provided this picture showing a call taker navigating 6 different computer screens.
We've committed $37.5 million in this year's budget to update old IT systems.
Governor Kelly, in her State of the State address, asked legislators to pay for long-term fixes. Upgrades the department maintains Republican Governor Sam Brownback's administration failed to implement.
I'll tell you one thing we learned in the military: the day you take charge, you're in charge. It doesn't matter what happens, what happened before.
Republican State Representative Chris Croft says even though he's working on long-term solutions on a state labor committee, he says too many people are still trying to ask the Labor Department questions, showing the department needs a better communication plan.
There's just a lack of feedback. It feels like it's going into, if you will, a black hole, and then it just goes nowhere.
Well, I just can't get through.
Needleman says after KMBC Non-Investigates got involved, the Labor Department called her to pay. As for thousands of others, they still need a victory. Matt Flener, KMBC 9 News. It still deserves a lot of question why a company that has faced so much scrutiny for conditions in apartments across the Kansas City area still continues to pursue evictions. Sinks backing up, floors flooded. Emily Truster says she's received no help to clean up her unit in the Raytown Village apartments.
This shows the wall and the mold.
Truster's withheld part of her rent since she says she's fronted money for cleanup. It's not unlike other stories KMBC 9 News has documented for more than a year about T.E.H. Realty.
This is wall mold.
Tuesday, KMBC 9 News was in court as Ms. Truster told a judge about those conditions. The property manager and lawyer representing a T.E.H. affiliate there too, asking for thousands in back rent from Truster, as she told the judge she was not willing to pay due to the apartment's safety.
Hopefully she'll realize that, I've been living in less than safe and desirable conditions.
Okay, so I'll get you a decision in the next day or two.
The judge said she'd think about a decision over the next couple of days as we asked the lawyer why he's moving forward with the case.
Especially considering this Truster's apartment conditions, do you think that's fair to continue to pursue a case like this?
I really have no comment, sir.
We tried to reach out to T.E.H. manager Michael Fine today, but didn't hear back. Matt Flener, KMBC 9 News. KMBC has reported about this controversial Clay County Annex site for the past year. It is moving forward over objections from the city of Kansas City, Missouri. Workers are getting ready to put the concrete footings on the foundation of the new Clay County Annex.
They got a construction site trailer.
Clay County State Audit Petitioner Jason Withington was at the site with KMBC just 3 weeks ago.
That construction site, I don't think that was here last time.
He's noticed work restart. Just 3 weeks after, a Kansas City building inspector issued a stop work order saying Clay County didn't have the right permits. But a private lawyer hired by Clay County says a state permit does give the county the right to build here.
I think they're telling the municipalities we don't care what you think either.
It's the latest disagreement in a years-long battle over the annex between the contingent of Commissioner Gene Owen and Lou Ann Ridgway and people like Withington, who never wanted the project to begin with.
I think Gene Owen and Lou Ann Ridgway are trying to say we don't care about the citizens of Clay County. We want this. We're going to get it done regardless of what they say.
Matt Flener, KMBC 9 News. Here at the Ruskin Place Apartments in South Kansas City, a woman reached out to us with a heartbreaking situation. Pregnant during a pandemic, Brianna Dixon just tested positive for COVID-19.
So now I'm stuck on what I need to do.
Dixon needs help, facing eviction after losing her job, saying she never got a lease when an affiliate of notorious Kansas City landlord T.E.H. Realty still owned Ruskin Place. Residents have complained about broken HVAC systems.
Use my oven to keep warm.
And other dangerous conditions for months. Dixon sees them too.
Ever since I moved in, I've been calling them, telling them to come fix things around my house.
There's a class action lawsuit against T.E.H. Realty at Ruskin Place. A lawyer representing tenants in that suit says Dixon should not be evicted since she moved in while T.E.H. was still in control. The current management, who did not want to go on camera, says they still want payment, but is working with the lawyer now to investigate Miss Dixon's claims.
Something gotta give.
Meanwhile, Dixon says she doesn't want to be out on the streets.
It just don't make sense. It don't make sense to me at all.
Bottom line, Miss Dixon should not be facing eviction since she moved in when the former owners, T.E.H. Realty, had control of Ruskin Place. We're going to stay on this story to make sure she gets the justice she deserves. In South Kansas City, Matt Flener, KMBC 9 News.
Coronavirus cases continue to rise.
This is a look at daily coronavirus
Here are the latest
cases.
numbers.
77 new
coronavirus
cases.
Here's a look at the rolling average of daily new cases.
New map of the confirmed cases of COVID-19 by zip code show a high concentration in the most economically disenfranchised areas in Kansas City.
COVID didn't break our systems. COVID exposed our broken systems.
When you talk about housing complexes and apartment complexes and housing projects and doubling up as a family just to have a place to live, that privilege of social distancing just does not exist.
We're starting to learn just how much more deadly the virus is for Black and brown people.
It's something in this apartment. It's like every time I come in this apartment, it's like I can barely breathe. It makes me very, very, very sick.
We see the unfairness. We hear it.
Uh-oh.
Hexagon.
Nice, hexagon. That's a hard one.
Square.
Square, great.
Simplest form is the haves and the have-nots.
Even people living in poverty need to have a voice.
There's privilege to certain people, for sure, and the ones like us, we catch the other end of it.
I knew we had our numbers were high, but my goodness, they've increased so much, and there is a need.
Big breaths with me.
There's more work to be done.
People now are taking the blinders off to see what's exactly going on.
I'm Matt Flener. Since the pandemic began, we've heard we're all in this together. But the evidence shows that's not true. COVID-19 has magnified the cracks in systems of healthcare, education, housing, and poverty, and at the same time shows how those cracks disproportionately affect people of color. We want to show you how by magnifying the stories of people often overlooked and the people trying to help them through arguably the toughest time of their lives. One of the baseline questions that we're just asking people is, how would you define inequity?
I define inequity as the inability of one group to access the same opportunities that another is able to access.
Inequity, I think, expresses itself in certain groups getting more and starting from a more advanced position to begin with.
A simple analogy of equity would be if at your house you have flower bed on the front of your house and you have flower bed on the back of your house. The flower bed on the back of your house doesn't get as much sun as the flower bed on the front of your house. You're going to treat those flower beds differently. You're going to work harder on the back side that doesn't get as much sun to make sure they look the same and you have healthy flowers and a beautiful flower bed on both sides. That's equity. Equality would be treating them the same and saying they need the same amount of water, they need the same amount of fertilizer, and they'll be fine. You're going to get different results.
When we look at the data right here in Kansas City, we see that Black and brown people alone have confirmed case rates at over 50%, while they only represent 32% of the population in Kansas City. So that data alone speaks to the inequities that exist in COVID-19 and speak to the underlying inequities that have always existed.
This is where God has called me to feed his people. Daniel L. Freeman I. I'm a pastor here at New Beginning Missionary Baptist Church here in Lansing. The education of the COVID, dealing with the African-American household, if we can really figure out a way to get to them and let them know the importance of getting to the hospital, it'll make a world of difference.
According to CDC data where race is known, non-white groups represent a majority of coronavirus cases.
The latest data confirms what so many of us here in public health and in our communities have been concerned about.
You need a mask, sir? There you go.
COVID is just exposing these disparities in a way we've never seen before.
Chronic conditions that put people at risk for severe complications from coronavirus are more prevalent among communities of color.
This disease is actually exacerbating other inequities.
I'd like to say good morning to you here on Facebook. We come to you to share a little words of encouragement with you dealing with this situation. I want to share with you, for those who think that this is a hoax, that it is not a hoax, this is real. I too have fallen victim to this coronavirus.
I keep the post socks. At home, I have one at home, and I keep one here at the church. It's my job as the under shepherd of this flock to make sure that my sheep that God has placed up under my care are taken care of. I shared with my membership, when they found out that I had this, we were doing a service on Zoom. And I told them then that God may have put me in this position because he knew that I could handle it with his help to show you, the membership, that you don't want this. When you look at the inequities dealing with the COVID, we have more African Americans who have come down with it. We have more African Americans who have died from it. I stayed 7 days in that hospital. 7 days in that hospital. Thank God, by his mercy and his grace, I did not have to go on a ventilator. Some of my good friends passed away from the COVID. When you get to that stage with that pneumonia in your lungs, it's very, very aggressive. If I was at home, being a man, I probably wouldn't have went. I probably would just say, well, let me just sit here and relax.
They had on these plastic little bodysuit things with 2 masks, and I was just like, dang, I really got this corona.
Here at the Ruskin Place Apartments in South Kansas City, a woman reached out to us with a heartbreaking situation. Pregnant during a pandemic, Brianna Dixon just tested positive for COVID-19.
So now I'm stuck on what I need to do.
Dixon needs help, facing eviction after losing her job, saying she never got a lease. What can we do to help? How can we help?
I just really don't know. I just feel like since I am positive for the corona and I did lose my job and I've been communicating with them, I don't think that they should give me an eviction letter, especially without me having no lease.
Bottom line, Ms. Dixon should not be facing eviction since she moved in when the former owners, T.E.H. Realty, had control of Ruskin Place. With concerns about black mold, roaches, and broken air conditioners in several properties owned by T.E.H. apartment investors, this chart, obtained by KMBC 9 News, showed T.E.H. Realty's rising evictions. Hey, how's it going? Michael Fine was managing partner and vice president of T.E.H. Are you one of the owners of T.E.H. Realty? Fine is now facing charges of wire fraud and bank fraud connected to $28 million in fraudulent bank loans. So I'm Matt from Channel 9. The indictment comes after a year of investigations by KMBC 9 News into the dangerous living conditions in T.E.H. properties.
All the mold on the wall and stuff.
We don't have any heat. We got to use a stove to warm up at night.
We tried to cover the hole because it stays ice cold.
Do you feel abandoned?
I do. I felt abandoned months ago. And now it's lingering on into a pandemic.
So in my eviction research, I found that T.E.H. Realty, an out-of-state corporation, was one of the biggest evictors in Kansas City and has been for the last several years. So then fast forwarding to COVID, right? In a context like this, a company like T.E.H. becomes exponentially more dangerous than they were before, and they were really dangerous before. The reason for that is that the living conditions are already uninhabitable. And then you add in a public health emergency where your home is supposed to be a safe haven, but your home is actually what's making you sick.
This disgusting, nasty mold. I just feel like I shouldn't even be given eviction notice. My sink been stocked up for months.
I think COVID has offered us a moment of clarity about how desperately broken our systems were.
It just don't make sense. It don't make sense to me at all. I just don't want me and my son to be homeless because of some stuff like this.
There you go. 8 and 6.
8 and 6. And what are their names again?
Cage and Chloe. They're so good-natured. They make friends wherever they go.
See how fast I can go on the sidewalk?
So I'm James Owens. I'm a leader with KC Tenants. Have been since the beginning.
KC Tenants chanting in the mayor's office Friday, moments after Quentin Lucas signs the Tenant Bill of Rights. This group has been pushing for a Tenant Bill of Rights for much of this year.
I'm on the bottom of the totem pole.
That ain't right.
KC Tenants got my back.
Right now I have an awesome landlord. He's really good and I don't have any complaints, but it took 6 years to find him. Before that, I've had to throw away everything I own twice because of bed bugs.
The Kansas City Metro will soon be under stay-at-home orders. Discussions are underway about extending the Metro-wide stay-at-home order.
Whenever it first kicked off, I was out of work for 2.5 months. From February, March, and April, nothing.
The order will require residents in Kansas City, Jackson County, Missouri, Johnson County, Kansas, and Wyandotte County to stay at home.
A lot of public officials have said, oh yeah, stay at home. Stay at home. If you can work from home, stay at home, right? When you hear that as a contractor, does it make you mad?
Yeah, because like I say, you can't phone in a hammer blow or phone in a plumbing repair. You have to be there, you have to get it done, and if you don't, you're not making any money. At the beginning, it was real hard to make them understand that the world has changed for a little while, you know, and we have to change with it, or else, you know, you end up getting sick.
I think now because of COVID, it has taken the covers off of a lot of issues that we're having.
Exactly. That's what I want to. It's too much. It's too much.
It has really opened up a lot of people's eyes.
I will push back on the idea that it has impacted everyone the same.
Hispanic and Black people are not dying more from COVID because of a biological thing or because of an individual choice thing. They are dying because of these underlying structures that we have created and that we have put them in.
So at the basic level, I think about housing.
Some people are chilling in their vacation homes in the Hamptons, reading great books, doing yoga classes, finding themselves spiritually, and no shade about that. But that is a fundamentally different world than the world of most of people who are poor and working class, communities of color, especially Black and brown communities that have been really struggling during this crisis, and it will not end anytime soon. The data tell us a story about the lasting impacts of racial segregation and all of the racist land and housing policies that lead us to 2020.
We think about who was forced to live where and what kind of access to capital they had.
Real estate developer Jesse Clyde Nichols is well known for the Country Club District and Plaza Shopping Center. J.C. Nichols developed neighborhoods in the first half of the 20th century with covenants designed to make them effectively for white families only. The restrictions specifically denied Black residents, contributing to racial segregation in Kansas City.
It still exists today. You know, it didn't disappear when he died. You know, when they buried the old man, they didn't bury all that trash with him. And it still exists, it still affects lives.
Look at areas where redlining or housing discrimination took place in the late 1930s. Darker red areas represent neighborhoods in federal housing policy less desirable because of Black residents. The professor notes you don't see many paycheck protection loans in those areas even in 2020.
There may be holes in those maps because businesses just don't exist there. And I think that says something too about how our economy has grown in this region.
You put people in certain areas and they're the places where they can live, and they can't live anyplace else because you won't finance them and you own the banks and the mortgage companies. Then you set up the system that allows COVID to grow in those areas.
On the east side of Troost, you're 19 times more likely to be evicted than if you live on the west side of Troost. And those who are from Kansas City will know that Troost is the racial dividing line, right? The black neighborhoods in Kansas City, for the most part, are concentrated east of Troost.
So we want to know why there's a certain group of people in Kansas City, predominantly African-American zip codes, that have higher rates of COVID infection. I think about it, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. You know, you have concentrated poverty. People are all doing the same types of work that require them to leave the house. They're not working from home.
Yeah, in those classifications that we called essential workers, but we didn't give them essential pay. Drive through any fast food restaurant, going to any full service restaurant. If you go into a hospital, and once you get beyond the medical staff and you get down to the folks who are in housekeeping, who are in transportation, the folks who conduct the logistics that keep those hospitals running, again, you see disproportionately African American, Hispanic, minority populations.
So during the coronavirus, I had lost my job, and that I am positive with corona. And they basically just been harassing me about paying rent.
COVID didn't break our systems. COVID exposed our broken systems.
You're on bed rest, but you're getting an eviction notice.
Exactly.
These fractures and inequities were already there. COVID just put a magnifying glass on it and exposed it to the entire nation and the entire world.
Right now, I mean, I do anything. Somebody wants their grass cut, I'll do it. I'm not proud. I mean, I got kids to take care of. I got to do what I got to do. But now a lot of people that was just a couple of steps above us are really starting to figure out that, yeah, this sucks.
When you say us, what do you mean?
Low income, struggling day to day, having to deal with a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily have to deal with if you could just go anywhere and write a check for it.
What is next?
I don't think anybody can answer that right now because we don't know what's next. My question would be, when do we get to next? When do we get there?
How are you doing, Nate?
It's a difficult situation.
And if you have a teacher...
I came to the United States in July 2017. Before coming to the United States, we were in a refugee camp.
What I've asked everyone to do today is...
The reason why we went to the refugee camp because Sudan was not a safe place for us. When you look at black people, immigrants, refugees, and poor people, those people that really, they have to work hard to get access to education. And with all of that, there is different in the level of education that they get than, example, white middle-class families. Like this morning, my sister, she's in first grade, so she have math test today, and she missed it just because of the internet wasn't working well.
The internet not working well at home, that should never be a problem for students during this pandemic. But students whose lack of internet or homelessness or the ability to get a good meal has caused even more trouble for them in school. The former head of the Lee Summit R7 school district fought to highlight these problems for the past few years, even before the COVID-19 pandemic. He says COVID has really magnified problems that students of color or students in poverty face every day.
We did not deliver last spring across this country. We did not deliver instruction to children. What was magnified was if a family has resource and opportunity, the child is, in many cases, already ahead. But if a child is economically disadvantaged, if a child lives in a marginalized community that lacks resources and the like, it's gonna be tough. And then you compound that by everybody saying, congratulations, parents are learning what it's like to be a teacher. Well, not a parent who's on the front line working at Walmart, or working at the Home Depot, or working at the fast food joint or the grocery store. All of these issues are real issues of inequity that have to be grappled with. So when someone says COVID affects everyone, yes, but yet again, it affects African Americans disproportionately. And it seems like every system in our country, for whatever reason, lands upon Black America disproportionately. Dr. Carpenter does not get to take off being a Black male. He is a Black male. He is raising a Black son. It's disingenuous to tell someone to pull themselves up by the bootstraps if they don't have any shoes. And so equity is about making sure that everyone has shoes. Yes, ma'am, Madam President, board members. In our items for decision, we have item 9.01, Education Equity Consultants. Back in February, the board approved the district's equity plan.
And there are districts that are uncomfortable with this.
I don't know that this is the way that I would implement these ideas.
I just don't like the word privilege.
I don't see that this is the one thing that if we do this, it's going to solve our problems.
I hope you all know that my heart's with our kids. I just think that some of us have different ideas on how we need to get there.
Madam President, I move that the board approve a one-year contract with 3 possible renewal years for educational equity consultants from St. Louis. Madam President, I would also ask for a roll call vote on this.
President Down.
Nay.
The motion fails.
At this time, I'm asking you all to look at Clause 18 of my contract. Clause 18 talks about the complete satisfaction of my contract. And I think if you don't have a leader that you can trust and rely upon to lead you through some difficult work, then you need to find someone that you do trust to help you work through it. Stand up if you're a person of color and you're on the leadership team in this district. All my leaders over here. Folks, we got work to do. You all have work to do now because I respectfully ask that you fulfill my contract and let me work with the community that wants to work with me in this area. What I learned from my time in Lee Summit is that's a heck of a question, and I got to be careful about answering it. What I learned is it's hard to change the hearts and minds of human beings. I learned how difficult it is to change the hearts and minds of human beings.
Dr. Carpenter eventually left the Lee Summit School District, but the board did move forward with equity training.
I have zero doubt that the hearts and minds of our staff are 100% rooted in what's right for kids and being equitable. I think that moment in our history as a district was a moment in which we said, it's time for the learning. It's time for us all to grow, all of us, in the organization, in the leadership capacity, teachers, everyone in the community. It's time for us to grow, and I think we've actually seen a great deal of growth as a result of bringing in that work to the district.
First topic we're going to delve into is COVID-19, reopening plans. Everyone's thinking about reopening from their perspective, whether it be children thinking about reopening from a student perspective, whether it be teachers, whether it be parents, and also to expect those who are impacted by the problem and who are already marginalized, already disenfranchised to solve the problem is problematic thinking. We don't do that in any other area except inequity and race relations. Those are only problems when I just got to stop and listen to some people more. That's what we're hearing now. And no, you don't. Get in the game, get busy.